Hello and welcome to Extra Connections. I am James Lott Jr. here on JLJ Media, my online network. Extra Connections is our show where I connect you with people, places, things, ideas. And this person meets many of that criteria. So his background is he was actually a legislator in the New Hampshire state. He started a nonpartisan super PAC called American Union PAC. And we're going to talk about what that is and what they do. They're currently working with congressional races in 10 swing states. This is very interesting. That's why I want to talk about that. Including North Carolina, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Florida. They were with both Republican and Democrats, so bipartisan races, where they endorse candidates who will support their policies. We're going to talk about what that is and what his feelings are about a few things. Help me welcome the founder, Brian Winters. Hi, Brian.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Okay, so I have a big general question. So just a general question, because I read all your stuff, AmericanUnion.com, went there and I read all your stuff. If for you, because you do this work, you're in it, you're in these states, you're doing it. Do you believe that there's still a chance for us to come together in general, in terms of it comes to policies, procedures, laws? I mean, it feels hopeless to many of us, just regular Americans out there. A lot of people that I talk to, regardless of sides, we all come with the same stuff. And it's like we're not getting there. Like this is like everything else is happening outside. Like some of our choices are like, those are our choices? Okay. But I feel like a lot of my friends from any side of the aisle are kind of like, we want the same stuff. But I just wonder for you, because you're in this work of trying to bring people together, is it hopeful to you? Is it possible?
Yes, there is hope. It is still possible because this is the 21st century and we have the internet and we can communicate and collaborate around the country and we can work together to solve problems and to change the system. That's the thing. Third parties don't work, right? Because you need like 35% of the vote in order to get one candidate elected. And the system just isn't set up in a way that allows for that. It's very stacked in favor of Republicans or Democrats. And they keep us trapped in this paradigm of you got to pick the lesser of two evils, or else you're going to throw your vote away and be a spoiler. And yeah, I talk to so many people, James, and people are frustrated. They know the system is broken, but what else are you going to do? It's a two-party system.
So I have to ask, when you were a legislator, when you were in the state, everything you're saying is completely yes. So when you say legislator, can I ask what side you were on?
Yeah, so I picked Team Democrat. It was 2006, and I, like many Americans, I was fed up with the Iraq War, and Republicans running everything in Congress. So I picked Team Democrat and served 3 terms.
Okay. So after your 3 terms, you were like, okay, I want to do something. I've seen the inner workings.
I've seen the sausage made from the inside.
Exactly. It's not pretty. It tastes good. Some sausages taste good, but not pretty. I've seen it too. No. But you decided, okay, now I'm gonna continue kind of basically community work. You're still serving the people, but now on a larger scale. What was the idea of American Union? Well, what was the idea of that?
It developed over time. As my kids were growing up, and I kind of stepped back from politics. I tried to run for a different office, but because I wasn't a very good Democrat, the Democrats primaried me to make sure that I didn't get the office that I was looking for. So I stepped back from politics. But as my kids were growing up, like what are the real problems in this country? Like what are the ways that we can actually solve them, and what are the ways that we can influence the system? And so over a period of years, I worked with lots of other people to develop a whole list of solutions. The Blueprint for a Better America, which we'll probably talk about here shortly, and the strategy of unionizing as swing voters, because as we talked about, third parties don't work, but swing voters are the voters who have the most power. Those are people who are willing to vote for either a Republican or a Democrat. Again, those are the people who win 99% of the time. And by being the deciders, that's where the power is.
Swing voters are just more than we think, isn't there? Out there. Swing voters. There's more than we think out there. Like everybody thinks most people are on this side, most people are on this, but there's a lot of swing voters and people in between, aren't there?
Absolutely, yes. Lots of people that are they play the lesser of two evils game, because that's the only game in town. But yeah, they're willing to look at both sides.
Yeah, and I was trying to tell somebody the other day. I know I have a lot of friends who are like they're not super team either. And I mean, Bernie Sanders was the first kind of, years ago. I remember we had Ross Perot. I remember years ago we had other people back. I'm aging myself back in the day.
Ross Perot is the first person I voted for president,
See,
and I said a minute ago that the lesser two evils game was the only game in town, but that's the American Union is a different game. It's a better game to play. So
yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, but no, but Ross Perot. Even before that, there was John Anderson during the Reagan stuff back in the day. So I remember. I mean, people would come up and you're like, yeah, but I feel like Bernie Sanders was really close in many ways. Of a person who was independent who really came out there was like and gathered so much support, especially from the youth. And I mean youth, everybody's young to me at this point. I'm not 50, everybody's young to me. So like the 20s, they were really he was really getting them. So so I guess you're right. People are looking for somebody, no matter what, they're looking for a label, looking for somebody to say, I believe the same things you do, correct?
Yes, Bernie was very inspirational because he was offering specific solutions. He wasn't just, making nebulous promises. He had very specific plans for a lot of the things that he wanted to do. And he was a person with a lot of principle and a lot of history, good track record.
But I feel like you were saying earlier, people are looking for folks to say, I agree with I need the trash picked up every Tuesday. I need this. I need someone who aligns with that more so than I'm Republican, I'm lifelong Democrat. Like it's more people are kind of in the middle, aren't they? Like I just need the things done.
Yeah. And the, media is really good at making us, pitting us against each other. Politicians are really good at this, trying to persuade Republicans to hate Democrats and Democrats to hate Republicans and persuade everyone else to take a side. But what if we don't? What if instead we say we're all Americans and we have these similar roots in the Constitution that say what Americans should be doing? And James, you probably remember learning the preamble to the Constitution back in grade school.
Yes.
And it's we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, we're supposed to do 5 things. We're supposed to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We've gotten away from that. And so the American Union is inspired by those duties, and our legislative package will steer America back towards that, towards looking out for each other, and solving some of these problems that are tearing this country apart.
Yes. So American Union is something that you started, a PAC. Can you explain just for the plain folk out there who may not know what this means? What's a PAC or a super PAC? We hear those words sometimes out there, and because you say, I want to get that out the way. Like, what is that?
I sure appreciate the question because yes, PACs definitely can have a negative connotation.
Yes, right.
But the actual definition is if you're going to spend more than $1,000 to try and influence the outcome of a federal election, you have to register with the FEC, with the Federal Election Commission, and keep track of how you're spending this money. So we are spending more than $1,000, and so we are registered as a PAC, stands for Political Action Committee, and we specifically registered as a super PAC, which means that none of the money that we raise will ever go to any candidate, will never go to any candidate's committee. It will only go to growing the American Union, this block of swing voters that want to put policy over politicians.
Yeah, that's good. And again, this makes your definition. Who are swing voters? You and I kind of talking around. I meant to say that first to make sure everybody knows what that means too.
Yeah, and I guess people define it differently, but the way we define it is someone who's willing to vote for either a Republican or a Democrat. And as a union of swing voters, for us all to vote together, to all throw our weight in the same direction to, you talked about Ross Perot. We've seen this political pendulum swing back and forth for 30 years, right? The Democrats won everything in 92, Republicans in 2000, Democrats in 08, Republicans in 2016, Democrats in 2020, and it just goes left, right, because of the swing voters are frustrated. And they're like, well, this party's doing it, not working. Let's try the other one. And so a union of swing voters can grab that pendulum, and instead of going left and right, we can go forward. We can move this country forward together by working together.
Now, how can you convince people who may think this is bad? Because they think, well, you should be a Democrat or you should be a Republican. If you vote for, I'm talking about like small, I'm talking about the big election, like the ones to me that really count are the smaller elections, maybe it's local to you. Those are very important. This mayors, governors, all kind of stuff. So what do you say to people who say, well, if you get these swing voters in this one state and they end up voting Republican, how does that help me? Like, what do you say to people who say that?
So just to clarify, this is a federal legislative package that we're backing. So this only applies to the 469 congressional races that are on the ballot in 2022. So your local mayor and things like that, which isn't to say that this political paradigm can't work on a state or local level. Just that, because again, by being a block of swing voters offering very specific solutions to both parties and saying, we don't care who solves these problems, but we want to get these done. It could be used in any democracy, but we're focused on the national problems on the federal level and offering this legislative package to Congress and saying, look, put this on the president's desk before the midterm elections, end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars, and we'll reelect you. Republicans, Democrats, we don't care. We just want you to solve some problems. But if you refuse, then we can vote for your opponents. And as swing voters, it just takes a small percentage to control the balance of power in Washington, D.C. So that should give us leverage over Congress and leverage over the national conversation. So all these millions and millions of Americans who are frustrated with the two-party system, here's a different game to play where we can put policy first. And it's not about getting ourselves elected, but about getting solutions on the president's desk.
So your thing is more about, because I was reading your stuff, and I see it, I'm looking at things, and the endless wars, that kind of, you're more about, okay, this is what's going on here. Like, we have homelessness out here in LA, it's very big in California. Like, you're like, we want to end that. We want to put the politicians to actually work on it and actually end it, not just keep it going somehow. Because as you know, if I get a little political myself, because this was a political show, you said, and incarcerations, that's a business also. It's all these things I feel like are businesses, but they are problems that spill over to other things. It's a ripple effect. So you're saying we're trying to get this together to actually, not because when everybody vote Republican, everybody vote Democrat, we just want everybody to let's fix it. Whoever you are, fix it. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying, right? Just fix it.
Just fix it, right? We don't care who. And again, it's not about the American Union is not a third party. We do not run candidates. It's not about getting ourselves elected. It's about policy and it's about solutions. We can crowdsource functional government. We can have a people's Congress that drafts the legislation, and we offer it to all the candidates running for Congress in 2022. And those who are willing to endorse and accept this package of solutions can earn our support.
So firstly, did you guys go out there and look at kind of the overview of what's going on in America? You guys, what's kind of process behind gathering information? What's on the books, what laws are on the books, what things are, what bills are out there. I feel like there'll be a big process kind of so you can come up with this kind of manifesto, so to speak, of what you guys do, and mission statement we guys want to do. Was it a big process of going out there and say, okay, what's going on out there? And he's like, what is going on? And this is what we want to fight for.
Yeah, so absolutely, yes. It was a process over a number of years, listening to people. What are the injustices in America? What are the problems that we have? And then what are the ways that we can solve them? What are the root causes? And so as we developed this list, they sort of naturally sorted themselves into three main categories around poverty, criminal justice reform, and militarism. And so Congress has a website, congress.gov, that has all the bills that have been introduced for the last 50 years. And so there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's accessible, again, because in the 21st century, the internet has made so much more information available to people that we pulled out a lot of the useful legislation. We trimmed out some of the parts that were written to benefit special interests and redirected them towards serving the people. And we compiled this 207-page legislative package, the Blueprint for a Better America, which you can read on the website. Again, these are not nebulous sound bites that we're making. This is a very specific legislative proposal. Congress put it on the president's desk, and America can win. We can come out of the pandemic solving these problems. We can be a nation reborn, a nation that comes together, driven by our constitutional duties to solve these problems.
But you're also saying, I'm reading it directly from you because I have your blueprint right here on my thing. Every single person wants to make some concessions to support legislative package. So it's like you got to do your part too. Everybody's got to do their part, right?
That's exactly right. And again, going back to the Constitution, that's what the Constitution was. So we had the list of duties, our ideals, our mission statement in the preamble. But the things that came after it, there was a whole series of compromises. So like things like the Electoral College, things like slavery, like representation, like the Senate, that they had to cobble up something that could get all the 13 states, all the 13 colonies to agree to in order, because they didn't want to see America fail. And the Articles of Confederation weren't working. Something had to be done. And so that's what the Constitution is, a collection of compromises.
This is going backtrack for a second. Were you always into government and civics growing up, or was this a thing that came later for you? Because I mean, to go into politics, I always wonder the beginnings. Like, we're into history and civics and politics. Were you into that growing up?
Yeah, I think so. I'm always interested in the founding of the country, and the men who framed our nation, and yeah, you could say that.
Okay, I'm curious. Now, the three things you guys bring in your blueprint are all three things very important, very interesting: ending poverty, mass incarceration, endless wars. So we'll start each one. So with poverty, what is the main thing? Like I said, it's a big blueprint. But what is the for I say soundbite, but what is the main thing that you guys are looking for in terms of ending poverty?
So the short answer is universal basic income, establishing an economic floor that no American can fall beneath, similar to what Martin Luther King championed at the end of his life, a guaranteed annual income. So this would start every adult with $15,600 a year, and plus an additional $5,200 a year for kids. So $300 a week for adults, $100 a week for kids. Not a glamorous lifestyle, but enough to lift every American above the national poverty line. You talked about in California how you've got major homeless problems.
Yes.
And this isn't really enough to live on in California. But because it would be attached to you wherever you moved around the country, you would have that base level of income, and you could live in parts of the country that are much more affordable if you wanted to, or find employment and boost yourself even higher.
Well, I think it's something. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's this thing. What's happening out here isn't working yet. At the moment, nothing's happening. It's not working. So, I think it's something. I always feel like a boost for all is a great thing. no problem. I think it's like a nice little boost. I mean, they did little bits and pieces during the COVID stuff. Again, I have my own feelings about that. But I just felt like, we're out here. People are just literally in their RVs on the streets. Gas is almost $8 a gallon out here. I mean, it's really not pretty out here. And I know the rest of the country is places the same thing. I mean, I know it's not just California, but poverty is a big deal. And some people need like just a little leg up just so they can kind of buy clothes or a place to live, so they can actually, or buy a mailbox so they can actually have an address. I mean, there's a lot of little things people need to get jobs or go to school. People don't realize that. It's a lot of adulting is a lot of work that goes in there, to do that.
No, absolutely. And you got to spend money to make money, kind of thing. And so by making sure everybody has a basic income, people can solve a lot of their own problems. They don't need government looking over their shoulders, micromanaging how they live their lives. Ensure that people have the resources, and people can take care of themselves in large part. So universal basic income is very simple. There's not a lot of bloated bureaucracy, and then two other parts of the ending poverty include 18 weeks of paid family leave for people who do have other employment, and a public option for health insurance, so we can help decouple healthcare from employment, separate those two things, and give people more freedom to change jobs and seek employment seek other jobs without losing their health insurance.
That's a big one too. That's a big one. I first want to ask you, how do you guys come up with the numbers you came up with? Ask me that. So I'm like, well, yeah, how did that number come
up? The basic answer is that it's the poverty line, plus, because there's some taxes built in, plus about 15% to account for a 12% value added tax, consumption tax that's part of the funding, and some pollution taxes that are included as well.
Okay. See, folks, you guys are really going through this, thinking about it. That's why I like you're having solutions. You have these ideas. Now you mentioned, what's about the next one? Because poverty can lead into some of these other things too.
Absolutely.
They're all connected. I mean, all three they're connected dots, right? Mass incarceration. Now, you know, I'm a black man, as you clearly see. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm a black man. You can see this. I've never been incarcerated, but I've had police things happen to me over the years. But I view it as a business. I view it as this business. Some people say the system is broken. I'm like, no, it's not broken. I feel like it's set up the way it's supposed to be set up. Like I really do. And I have law enforcement family and my family and side of people, and that's fine too. They're great. But I just feel like the system as a whole in the country is set up exactly the way it's supposed to be set up. So what are some of the things that, again, so I guess shorter answer, what are some of the things that your blueprint talks about ending? Because how do we end this?
Yeah, there's a lot of probably about almost 24 policies under this plank. And James, you're right. The prison industrial complex is a real thing. There's a lot of profit that's being made. So there's three main parts of this. The first is police reforms. A lot of these are included in the George Floyd Justice Act that the House has passed a couple times. So things like ending qualified immunity, things like restricting the use of no-knock warrants, the restricting cash bail, ending civil asset forfeiture, ending the 1033 program that puts military surplus on our city streets. So a lot of those things are included in the police reforms. Ending the prosecutorial reforms means ending mandatory minimums, that returning the power of judges to judge instead of letting politicians say, doesn't matter, we're just going to lock this person up for X amount of years. Because mandatory minimums have a lot to do with how plea bargains work, right? If a prosecutor threatens you and says, well, it's a 25-year mandatory minimum, so you better take a plea. Also ending the federal war on drugs. I don't know if you've read Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, but she concludes that if we become serious about ending mass incarceration, we must end the war on drugs. There's no way around it. And so this federal legislation would wipe the federal drug laws off the books. States would be able to set their own policies, just the way that we did after Prohibition, where some states immediately legalized alcohol and states like Kansas stayed dry until like World War II.
Right.
But let it be a state's issue and let the federal government lead by example from the top. And then lastly, prison reforms. Man, we got 2 million Americans who wake up behind bars in this country every single day. And we are not the most evil country in the world. There's just something terribly wrong with the way that our criminal justice system is working. And so we dehumanize the incarcerated far too frequently. So this legislation does things like reforming solitary confinement, like restoring access to Pell Grants for incarcerated Americans, like repealing the Prison Litigation Reform Act that creates a lower tiered access to the judicial system for incarcerated people, a number of things like that. So those are some of the main points in the ending mass incarceration section of the bill.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, it's just, I think, in California, we have like 3 strikes laws. I think they're tired. They do not match the crimes sometimes, or what they call the crimes, I should say. So yeah, I'm all about reforming that whole system. So at least it gives people.
Well, the thing is that 95% of the people that get incarcerated are going to get released at some point, right? So we should be striving to help them be successful when that happens, making sure that they are set up to succeed, set up to reintegrate in the communities. And, again, going back to the ending poverty, if you let someone out of prison with a bus ticket and $20, like, all right, go thrive. Well, it's not really a surprise that it doesn't work for a lot of people. And so by establishing universal basic income and ensuring that everyone has $300 a week to meet their basic needs, we can help support people. And as we reunite families, as we end mass incarceration.
Yeah, and I always wonder about that because I live in places where I'd be on a bus or a train traveling to California, and they get out of a prison, and you see they have the outfit on, the jeans or whatever, and they have their bag, and I'm like, what happens after that? Because I know that there's a large portion that go back in. Also, a lot of repeats, just because they don't have, like, where are the programs? Where are the programs when you get out? As I always wonder about that actually here to meet with you and get you, like I said, having your plan of having money coming in, that'd be good. But also have these people here to help you go, okay, what do you like to do for work? What was something you've been thinking about? Like, and then also, I guess you're talking about too, prison reform, even in prison, I guess having systems set up that what do you think it is about people's view about prison? I feel like you're bad. That's it. Bye bye. Like I think people almost think that. It's like, but there are a lot of folks who go to prison for very many different reasons. They're not all evil killers. I mean, it's like I mean, what do you think? Because you've been in the legislature stuff for a long time. What do you think? What is the general sense about prison? Why prison isn't so important to people performing it?
I think America's perception of prisons has shifted over the years, where we used to see prisons as more of a way of rehabilitation, and now we've shifted to see prisons as a way to punish people and punish them into submission for not adhering to society's standards that in many ways are just sort of arbitrary laws and rules that aren't enforced equally on everyone. And yeah, it's shifted into this mindset of punishment. And look, there are evil people out there that do terrible things. I know, but we should recognize that, to the extent that prisons are necessary, they should be opportunities to recognize the humanity in people, to help people heal, reform, and be better. Because James, we all have the opportunity to improve our own lives. We can all always be better, and we can always strive for that. That's, again, going back to the Constitution. We wanted to form a more perfect union. We can never be perfect, but we can always strive to be better. And that's true for individuals as much as it is for us as a nation.
I feel like with your end poverty piece, to tie it together, well, a lot of mass incarceration is born out of poverty too.
You're absolutely right. Poverty is a huge driver of crime, and it's kind of common sense that you got the whole risk reward ratio, and so if you don't have much to lose, then yeah, we might as well rob the gas station or whatever else. So ending poverty helps give people an economic stake in their lives.
I agree with that, and also I don't want to take this lightly either. Ending poverty actually gives also very emotional esteem stake in this too. The country's depressed, the country's angry, the country's upset, the country's feeling hopeless, not hopeful. That's why I said that question again, because I'm like, for you, I read the blueprint, or else you guys. Well, I'll tell you at the end where to go, all this stuff. But like, it literally points out what you have the plan. It does feel optimistic reading that. I feel like, oh, this can be done. I mean, it seems like it's like, okay, sure. But I know a lot of folks who are just like, well, I didn't even vote last time because I didn't even like who the. I mean, my vote doesn't mean anything. Like, they really feel really hopeless because they can't make ends meet, because they're living on couches or friends' couches. They can't find a place. The apartments are $5,000 a month for a one bedroom. Especially in LA. It's outrageous. These are regular hard people who will be hardworking people who just want to live their lives and have a place to live. So I was like, I don't want to take this part lightly either. That if we start to fix the poverty problem, I think a lot of emotional health would get better also.
You're absolutely right. There's been a number of pilots with basic income, including one in Stockton, California, that gave people a $500 a month unconditional cash dividend, and then they had a control group that didn't get the dividend, and they found that the people, having a little bit of economic security helped make people be calmer, feel better, and actually made them more likely to be employed after a year of that. Then they didn't have to rush out and try and find the first job that they could. They could get it right and find a job that really worked for them. We worry about the kids. Like, when parents are under economic stress, like, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to put food on the table? You tend to be more quieter, introspective. And one of the greatest impacts on child development is how much talking that you do with them, how much conversation you have with them as they're growing and learning about the world around them. And so childhood development, when kids grow up in poverty, is worse as well. And we as a society pay all these costs going forward when we could just fix the problem right up front and end poverty. So to your friends who said, I didn't even bother to vote, I understand. I voted third party for decades and decades because I'm so frustrated.
Yeah.
But so here's a different model. Let's vote together. I don't know which way. I don't know, but let's do it together, and we will have power. So give your proxy to the American Union, and we'll use our votes together to advance this vision.
But yes, it's that whole thing of you have to have hope, I guess. That's what folks American is trying to give you hope and saying, okay, come with us and we'll take you on a journey, and we'll try to take your concerns and get them worked out. But as long as you don't care who, as long as you're not married to, it has to be this or has to be that, right? It's like they come to us and let's just work it out let's work out the structures.
Well, that's because, that's how unions have their power, is if they're willing to go on strike. If you say, boss, I want better working conditions, but don't worry, I'm never going to stop working here. I'm politely asking you to improve things. You have no leverage. But at the point when you're willing to walk away, that's when you have power. So if you're blue, no matter who, or you always vote Republican, you have no leverage really until you're willing to walk away. And so this is a good faith offer to politicians of both parties: end poverty, end mass incarceration, and the endless wars to earn our votes.
That's the next thing. Again, wars. We're we're supposed to be the best, quotes, the best country in the world. We're out there looking out for. Well, don't we have a lot of interest in certain places and things? That's why we're there. I'm saying that with tongue in cheek, as I'm saying that obviously rhetorical. But you have a blueprint for ending this war. So again, short bits. What are some of the things? Because again, they can read the blueprint, but somebody show you short bits on that.
Yeah, and again, you talked about the prison industrial complex, and of course, the military industrial complex is also very much a thing.
Yes.
And it serves a very useful function in our economy because the military industrial complex pushes money out in every congressional district across the country. And so if we want to downsize the military, we've got to replace that with something. And that's, again, where universal basic income comes in, to push money out into all the communities across the country. So some of the specific things in the legislative package, there's two parts. One is reducing the military. They would require Congress to cut the military budget by 10% for 4 consecutive years. We just finished the war in Afghanistan, so that should be pretty easy. It repeals the authorizations for military force that we passed back in 2001 and 2002, that 2 decades later we're still using to justify all sorts of adventures across the Middle East, and reduces some of our hundreds and hundreds of foreign military bases. It also would reduce our nuclear stockpile by 50% over 5 years. So we'd still have thousands and thousands of nuclear weapons, but between us and Russia, we have 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. And so we can go first. We can say, look, we're gonna de-escalate and try and set an example to the rest of the globe that say nobody wins with a nuclear war. The other half of this plank is improving our moral standing in the world. And a couple of the things that we can do to do that is to end the use of economic sanctions against civilian populations. I think of nations like Cuba, where back in the 1950s, they had a revolution and we didn't approve of it. So, all these generations and generations later, we're penalizing an entire country. Yeah, we have sanctions on many countries around the world that cause tens of thousands of civilian deaths. And that closed Guantanamo Bay military prison, where we've held men without charges for decades now, and stop buying and using landmines and prohibit the development of lethal autonomous weapons. So try and restore our moral standing.
So now right now, there's 2 things I can say. One thing, of course, again, through line, a lot of people come into the poverty areas to get people to join the military. And for some, it is a great thing. For some, I have cousins who went in. They're like, thank God they did. They were going down a path that was not the greatest. But there is a going to Black and brown communities. There is that going on as almost another alternative to mass incarceration, kind of like it's almost like another kind of incarceration, so to speak. My opinion, of course. But we see it happen, and you're shaking because I know you see it happen too. But we talk about military and we talk about police. Those are 2 very touchy subjects for many parts of the country. And you go to some states that I'm sure it's a tough thing in there. So I'm clear from your blueprint. You're very clear about that we need them, but just not in the way they're being used now. Am I right, wrong, close?
Yes, you're right. And again, the constitutional mandate is to provide for the common defense, but we've far exceeded that mandate when we spend more on our military than the next 10 largest countries combined. The framers of the Constitution were so concerned about standing armies that they put it in the Constitution. You're not allowed to budget money for the army for more than 2 years at a time. They even talked about putting a provision in that would require a 2/3 vote of Congress to just have a standing army. They were very concerned about it, the bloated government of the military-industrial complex. You're right that it is a sort of a jobs program that benefits from the number of people living in poverty looking for economic opportunities. And so again, we need to solve these problems together. They are interrelated. You might recognize that Martin Luther King's triple evils that he identified of poverty, racism, and militarism, that they are addressed by ending poverty, ending mass incarceration, and ending the endless wars.
Yeah.
Again, not that all these problems can be 100% solved, but to always strive to do better and improve ourselves.
Well, he wasn't well liked towards the end of his life either. A little bit, he was getting pushed back for some of his thoughts that you said we're talking about now, that are coming up literally 50 years later. I mean, or even more than 55 years later, whatever. I was born in '60. I'm like, when was I born? Yeah. So I mean, it's just so many, but some of these issues are still, sadly, still an issue. There's things that went on when I was a young man 30 years ago that are still going on today. I don't know if they're worse or better. I just know they're still going on. And when I saw your blueprint, I thought, yeah, these are three major. So are there other stuff to like? Well, no, these are three major things that all are interconnected. I mean, they're all connected somehow, and we're spending, not enough money in some, and more money than God in others. Like we're just like, I mean, like it does seem to me. I consider myself. I'm a Hollywood person. I'm out here in Hollywood. I don't know not a lot of stuff, but it seems to me like it seems lopsided to me.
Yeah, these things are sort of connected in that we don't recognize the value in human beings the way that we should, and the way that we should be more upset that 12 million children are going to sleep in poverty tonight. Like there's no reason in the richest country in the world that we should allow that to happen. But we don't care. It's somebody else's problem, and it's maybe it's the kid's fault. They should get a job, or they should have picked better parents. It's not
right.
No, it's right. It's terrible that we're willing to ignore that. And the George Floyd really, I think, woke a lot of people up to the problems in our criminal justice system. But nothing really changed. It's been 2 years, and nothing has really changed.
Nope.
And yeah, and then the military-industrial complex again is about dividing people into us and them. The other people, the other people who are on the other end of the bottom of where these bombs are dropped. And James, in the Middle East, there's countries where kids, they fear sunny days because that's when the drones come out, and that will just blow things up. And we are not doing a good thing. we're not improving the world's mental health when we're making children fear sunny days.
No, and I have my own thoughts about all these mass shootings are happening, and AR-15s, all that stuff. It's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now.
Well, and again, those go back to the military-industrial complex and this glorification of violence. This idea that that being strong, being willing to kill other people, that's the kind of thing that makes us strong as a nation. And sometimes it's necessary to use violence. Sometimes it is necessary to kill, but we should see that as a failure to resolve our differences peacefully, as a failure to communicate, and so do it with regret, not glorifying.
So I mean, you've been working on this for years, and so when we were going through as we call it, we call out here the rebellions, with the George Floyd and Tura Rice, and all people like and Breonna Taylor, and all that. Everybody was. Mm-hmm. But what were you as you were going through this stuff? You were like, well, we're trying to work on it right now. Like we're working on stuff. It must have been very interesting time for you to see the country actually start to stand up against it and say this is not cool anymore. As you're putting this blueprint together, I'm sure.
Yes, the ending mass incarceration, the police reforms, definitely that list grew in 2020 as a result of the George Floyd's murder and the legislation that started moving through the House. That section was more focused on prison reforms before that happened.
Yeah. That must be also because you were a legislator, so both sides of this. That's probably what makes you a great founder of this and kind of leader of this blueprint, because you're like, I know how things go on and how either slow or fast. Bills. My folks work in politics here in California, so I've been to some of those meetings for bills were introduced and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, and the things that are said behind closed doors and who, like I said, who's lying in the pockets, and so for everybody, it's what you think. right? This is not all Law and Order SVU or whatever stuff. It's not some kind of CSI. Like, this is all for real. Like a lot of things that this TV shows are showing us really do happen, don't they? Real life.
Yeah, right. So I served on the Commerce Committee, and so we dealt with banking and insurance regulation.
Okay.
And lots of times the lobbyists would come in and like they'd hand us, all right, here's the language that we approve of. And lots of times we would just rubber stamp what the lobbyists wanted. And so we, the people, can lobby for ourselves. We can pitch to all the candidates for Congress, say, look, this is what we want. This is the deal. Take it or leave it. And for candidates who want to win, they'll find the reasons to persuade themselves that they should take the deal. So that's the power of sticking together as a union of swing voters. That we don't have to change. We don't have to change the way we vote,
Right.
and to ranked choice voting or anything like that. We don't have to start a new party and then ask for ballot access and try and find candidates who can outspend the duopoly candidates.
Right.
All we have to do is agree to work together, to stick together, and collectively bargain to win us a better social contract.
And I like the fact, one thing I like about this whole thing is that you are putting it back in the hands of the people. You're inviting people to come in and be a part of this. You know what I mean? Like we don't think about that, right? It's always like just the politicians don't take care of everything, or just the big people take it. But they're actually saying we the people. You're literally going, we the people.
Right. Politics, so much of politics is a reality show, right? Who's going to run for president in 2024? Will it be him? Will it be him? Well, what if we stopped worrying about that and started worrying about what instead of the who? What do we want done? What do we need to do to solve these problems? And we, the people, can do that. We can crowdsource these things in the 21st century and just focus on the what do we want done. So,
yeah, you're right on it, because that I think that's what's happening now. We're like everybody's upset with both parties at this point. I think they are. I think most people just like this thing. I'm again bringing down just the base level. It is a national thing, but it does affect everybody base level. You're like, I can't get gas. I can't get much gas. Hard to find an apartment, or try to buy a house. I'm trying to get a car, trying to get a job that's worth some kind of wage. Or I'm raising 2 kids and trying to make sure I can't buy baby formula. There's like a lot of stuff going on. That's just day to day, regular. I'm gonna almost cuss my own show. I'm trying not to cuss. Also regular shit. I'll just say it real quick. Shit going on that it's like whoever is president actually almost it just doesn't even count. It's just like they're not taking care of it, like the basic level stuff. Why is my meat $9 a pound? Like, why can't I get a steak for under $9? I mean, I think that's what most of my friends on any side of the aisle are just going. This is ridiculous. I can't get milk for less than $4 a bottle. I mean, I guess it's really that's the stuff that I think people are really right, are really wanting that fixed.
Yes, absolutely. And so Democrats and Republicans aren't doing a good job of looking out for us.
Nope.
Right. So we need a better way to organize, a better way to look out for ourselves. And that's what a union is a group of people working together. So that way, everybody's so busy, you don't have the mental bandwidth to look at all the candidates on the ballot and figure out, who's going to make the best promises. Because, even if they make those promises with the best of intention, they go off to Washington, they get down in a room with 434 other congressmen, and you can't get anything done. So this turns the model around. We wrote the solutions first. We're building the consensus before the election instead of hoping that some champion can go off to Washington and create them afterwards. Because the model doesn't work. Let's flip it around.
That's why I like that you actually, folks, they give you what their plan is, which I like that. You can see it. AmericanUnion.com is the website. The blueprint is up there, correct? A summary of it is up there.
Yes. Right? You can read the whole thing on AnAmericanUnion.com. Yes.
Yeah, it's a PDF. You get a PDF form, download. You can look at it and see exactly what they're talking about. It's all very transparent. I mean, I read through this. It's very transparent, right? I mean, everything's in there. The plan. People get nervous. They get scared and don't trust people. So I'm saying, no, your stuff is great. It's all out there. It's all out there. What you guys want? All
within the PDF. There's hyperlinks, so you can read the exact section of the U.S. code that's being amended. We can have transparency in government if we wanted to.
Really? I don't know, Brian. Really? Is that something we can have? Really?
We are so very capable, James. We can do these things. There's a lot of people who are making money off of seeing so many Americans struggle and fail. And so we can flip that around. Swing voters are the ones with the power. We just need one consistent set of demands, and we can bring power to the people.
We're gonna end it on that. I like that. I like that. We're gonna end on that. You are a politician, I can tell. No, you're a good one. No, thank you. Right, I think no, seriously, this is very interesting. I'm curious to see people hear this and see this because we always hear about the problems, but we rarely hear about what the solution. I'm a solution-based person. I'm a fixer. I like to fix things. So that's why your thing speaks to me. I just want it fixed. I don't care who does it. Just do it. So I think a lot of folks out there would agree. They just want it done.
Lots of folks out there do agree. There's millions and millions and millions of people who just want it fixed. They don't care who. Yes. We just need a better way to organize.
See, I like that. Hey, Brian. So AmericanUnion.com is the website. It is a super PAC. And you can go on there and can they contact you guys through the website if they want to talk to you or join or all kind of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. They can contact us through the website, volunteer, and there's lots of things that can be done to spread the word, and that's how we can have hope for 2022. We can pressure Congress to act before the midterms to put this legislation on the president's desk. We have the power. We can do it.
Yeah, we can do it. I'm James Lott Jr. It's Extra Connections. We're always talking to people from all walks of life. Again, person, place, things, ideas. Like I said, he encompasses several of those things. I live in America. I love being here. I want the best America I can have. I want that for all of us. I really do. That's why I talk to everybody, because I really want good stuff to happen here, like we know it can. And I want to bring hope back to people. And so Brian's here with a little bit of hope with the American Union, and it has all blueprints. I'm James Lott Jr. We'll see you next time.